Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Anna.
Wait, Craig is first now?
Okay. I know.
I'm insulted.
Mix it up. I have to mix it up. I can't have you thinking that I'm just nothing but a predictable co-host.
Okay, so that was you mixing up. So now I'm in second place to a robot who is a bear? I forget. Is he a bear?
He's a weasel.
Weasel, yeah, sorry.
Weasel. You and many
like
others
bear,
think he's
though.
a bear, but he is a weasel.
Weasel, he
A
doesn't
weasel
have a
named Craig.
weaselly enough face. But
Oh, well, I mean, so what are you telling me he doesn't look like Marchand?
exactly. I mean, he's a rat. And he looks like
sorry.
a rat.
Oh, okay. How you been? What you been up to?
Yeah. I've been good. So we're recording this on Sunday night.
I mean, the
Goldeneyes
episode might go live on a,
Yeah,
Friday,
Tuesday.
who knows?
I mean, the fact that I didn't remember either when Chris forgot to publish, so that's my bad too. But yes, Goldeneyes season finished yesterday.
Did you?
I was at the game as I usually am, but instead of my usual seats, went up into the upper bowl, brought some friends as sort of a pre-birthday fun time. So I had many adult beverages both at the game and then afterwards. Feeling very loved, both by my friends and by the Goldeneyes because they won. So we love that.
They did. Yeah, it was a good way to wrap up the season. I mean, there was actually a statistic shown that in the month of April, the Vancouver Goldeneyes, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Vancouver Whitecaps lit things up. The problem was that for one of those three teams, didn't matter what they were doing, lighting things up was not going to change their destiny. The Goldeneyes lighting things up was really a matter of trying to give it their all to get that final playoff spot. Didn't happen, but then the PWHL works, the Gold Plan, there is a means to an end. And then for the Vancouver Whitecaps FC, who are just they're not actually top of the table right now because San Jose has played one more match than Vancouver, and as a result has one more win. And the way soccer works, it's purely points until you get to the end of a season when all is said and done. But nonetheless, Vancouver is still winning matches left, right, and center. So I mean, it was a good April, depending on perspective.
Did they win last night, the Whitecaps?
They did, actually. They won 3-1. I was, again, going to invite you to that match, but you told me that the Vancouver Goldeneyes are the choice that you make, and I understand. I mean, one of us needs to pay attention to the team when there's a conflict. You went to the Goldeneyes game, I went to the Whitecaps match. But if there's one thing that's very clear, neither of us went to a Canucks game.
No. And haven't for a minute, at least.
Yeah. A minute. Will be a minute longer.
Yeah, I think that's a way to put it. But yeah, good end to the season, I think. Clearly, we're a winning town. We're a town full of winners. That's what they call us.
Yes, that is exactly what they call us. Getting a little off the rails, but somewhat related to the podcast. Before I forget, we are transitioning after this episode to our off-season schedule. Now, the off-season schedule is going to be a little bit different than past off-seasons. Anna and I'll come back every couple of weeks through to the end of June. And then, by then, we'll probably be once in July, once in August. It might even be maybe middle of June. I don't know. I mean, we'll figure things out. But free agents frenzy is a big deal in the NHL. So it would make sense that we would talk about all
Yeah.
of the mistakes, whatever the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks is at the time makes. We'll come back in August, unless there's like some stratospheric, oh my
Yeah.
goodness news.
The Aquilini sell the team.
Oh,
We
So-
would be rushing back.
So the Vancouver Whitecaps, we talked a little bit about this. They're for sale. Their existing ownership group is looking to divest either a portion or all of their share. Interest to buy locally, not so hot. On occasion, someone will comment, couldn't the Aquilinis buy the Whitecaps? And the number of Whitecaps FC supporters who would I'd rather see the team relocate, which
Yeah.
no one wants to see.
No one wants, but
It's a sad state
yeah.
of affairs.
Yeah, that's brutal. I mean, yeah, maybe I can't remember if we talked about this on the show last week about the MLB pitch that Ken Sim, who is dying in place, and one of his last death flails seems to be to try and bring an MLB team to Vancouver. And a lot of comments are just can we focus on getting a real hockey team first?
Yeah, there's obviously professional sports there's opportunities, but we've talked about it on the podcast. We're an entertainment town. There's just so much entertainment to be had, and professional sports is one window. Again, off the rails. The Vancouver Warriors, National League lacrosse team,
They're in the
was in the playoffs. They were. They were
already?
They were winning a game 7-1. This was the winner moves on game. They were winning 7-1. They go into half. They lost 10-7.
Wow. That's bad.
The opposition
I know
scored 9 unanswered goals.
There's
to
lots
win.
of goals in lacrosse. It can happen, getting on a scoring run. That's brutal.
Yeah, it's and Vancouver, the Warriors, were a solid team all season long, and then in that moment, everything fell apart. And now they too have a long off season.
I will say that I did see one clip. I think it was from the Instagram, Canucks Instagram, sharing it from the game, and the announcer, who I have no idea who it is, but was trying to get a chant going in the crowd, and he was making Warriors into 2 syllables. So I think that's probably the reason, right, that they lost the playoffs.
War yours. Yours.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Warriors, come out and play.
Is that from a horror movie? It sounds like something it would say.
I've heard it. I can't for the life of me recall as to where it's from. Anyhow, let's talk about the Vancouver Goldeneyes in Rewind. So when we left off last week, we had recorded prior to the Vancouver Goldeneyes playing the Montreal Victoire. I can't remember when I published it. I believe it was Wednesday. So apologies if what Anna and I were trying to describe as might happen as possibly happened.
Yeah.
Again, that's on me. But we had talked about how Vancouver was, up against some tough competition with the Victoire in town and the Frost. The Victoire were in a position where they still had to play to lock down first place in the P-Dub. And Vancouver needed to lock down to try to capture the Gold Plan, which was the first overall pick, which, again, you and I spoke about last week. Both against Montreal and against Minnesota on Saturday, the Goldeneyes got the job done. Did they get the job done conventionally? But does it really matter?
Yeah. They don't draw pictures on the score sheet.
They do not. I mean,
wise Dan Ham Hughes once said that, and it's how I live my life, basically. So, yeah, it was tough watch the third period of both the Tuesday game and the Saturday game. Goldeneyes definitely like to give us a fright. They were cruising 4-0 up, and then just proceeded to let in 3 goals straight because they hate their goalie, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, talking about the game against the Victoire, I mean, the Goldeneyes had this in relative cruise control despite being outplayed in the first period. Goldeneyes sort of wore Montreal down.
Mm-hmm.
But that third period, it's as if the ice in the Pacific Coliseum had shifted toward the Goldeneyes net. And, the fact that Haley Skamura goes and lights things up and makes it a wild end,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I presume you were there.
I was there.
Did the Goldeneyes think having a 4-0 lead that they didn't have to worry about Montreal no more? Like,
Yeah, it's the most dangerous lead in hockey I've heard. Yeah, there was just so many grade A chances. Stop me if you've heard this before, but from the guts of the ice, you need to protect the guts of the ice. And Goldeneyes said, "No, thank you. We'll actually just leave that wide open for the Montreal Victoire."
A second question. Did Haley Skamura even leave the ice over the course of the 2.5 period that she scored 3 goals consecutively?
Yeah. I mean, hard to say. But yeah, it was certainly a very good showing from her, like Erin Ambrose and Nicole Gosling as well, getting a bunch of assists. Montreal are a good team, even without Anne-Renee Desbiens, who might be their best player, which is probably a controversial thing to say when you have Marie-Philippe Poulin on your team. But yeah, they certainly didn't shut off. I think it was interesting that friend of the show Maya asked I can't remember which Montreal Victoire player, but they said they were really tired because this was such a late game for them. Well, they certainly didn't fall asleep at the wheel. They were right there battling till the very end, and people were like tense. Like people, it was the atmosphere was crazy, and the relief. And honestly, it wasn't like I made a joking story about this on Instagram saying so tight, almost like a playoff game. But like it was pretty I feel like playoff atmosphere gets thrown around so easily, but it was pretty high up there. It was like the relief was so palpable.
Yeah. Well, Montreal needed a win to lock down first. They did not get it there. And as a result, that sort of left the door open. But for Vancouver, I mean, this was a critical regulation win to put them into the driver's seat, going into the final game with the Gold Plan. Now, that game against the Frost, Pride Night here in Vancouver, which I think is pretty cool considering who was in town for the opposition.
Yes, indeed.
But it was unlike the Montreal game where Vancouver built themselves a big lead and then watched it almost get away. In this game, Minnesota came out playing to win. Vancouver, though, did not let that discourage them.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest, again, sort of what little I saw as to the highlights, it felt like Vancouver was the sort of better team in the season for a very specific, I'd say 40 minutes from about midway of the first to midway of the third. Problem is,
there is that additional part of the hockey game.
Yeah, right. Like, and the third period, yes, Minnesota got within one early and midway through the third and tied it up. But Vancouver played a strong game for a team who was arguably out. And it had me reconsidering my initial thoughts on the Gold Plan. I know I was poo-pooing it. I'm still not sold on its premise in an 8-team league.
Yes.
Right. Like
I agree with
I'm not
that.
changing my tune because Vancouver won. that's, I think, when I sort of thought it through, I like what it did. It created sort of that competition. But yeah, in an 18 league, it was a race of two.
Yeah, it is a funny thing that happens because, like, New York were basically eliminated from the playoffs and goal plan contention, like, at the same time, on that Tuesday game, I believe, or was it Wednesday they were playing? So it's a strange situation. Yeah, as regards to the Minnesota game, I do think Vancouver looked a lot more dominant. I don't know if Minnesota are exhausted from their, like,
Was it a real
efforts
late
and
game for them?
yeah, real late game. Yeah, 4 p.m. Pacific, obviously past their bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
Was definitely past some NHL award voters' bedtime. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like Minnesota, they are the double Walter Cup champions, but they finished fourth in the regular season last year, right? Like never been. And I can't remember if they finished third or fourth in the inaugural season, but yeah, either way, like they're clearly not the strongest regular season team. But they're tough and fast. Like Kendall Coyne Schofield, like every single hockey fan is aware of how fast she is. Kelly Panic is the league's top scorer, so like, are they as fun to watch as a as a Montreal or a Boston? No, but like, and they're definitely not as fun when a certain player is on the ice. But they're a tough team, like, both physically and mentality wise, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How was the barn when Sophie Jakes scored that goal in overtime?
It's pretty loud. So I would say like maybe like not the highest attendance given what we've seen over the season, but
Mhm.
like it was loud. I pretty much lost my voice yelling the whole game. Um but people went crazy and you could just feel like people stayed watching the Flying V celebration, and then there was the 3 stars plus some speeches. The players gave out some prize packs and fun stuff. And people like, I think this town just cares about this team,
Mhm.
and that's been evident throughout the year. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that they bookended their season with 2 OT dubs. Like an OT
Yeah, it's
dub to
true.
get going, and they
Bonus
bookend it
hockey.
with an OT dub at the end. And that, that overtime win put them like completely in the driver's seat. That meant Seattle had to beat Montreal in regulation.
Yeah.
And, you know, could they have done it? Maybe it was close. Montreal did need to win it in extras. But, Vancouver, the Goldeneyes, they did what they needed to do at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And arguably, they did it well. And I poked fun at the Vancouver Canucks, trying to lock down first or the best odds at first overall, leading the way. But with what the Vancouver Goldeneyes did, like even before they had been eliminated, is they, were giving it all, trying to do what they could to get into the postseason, and they didn't let that level of discouragement deter them from then
Yeah.
locking down the gold plan.
Yeah. Against two very strong sides, they pulled out
Yeah.
2 wins. So like, even if they weren't the prettiest wins, like, yeah, they certainly didn't look checked out at all.
Yeah. So, as I had mentioned, the Montreal Victoire did win down in Seattle against the Torrent, and as a result, that meant they locked down first place overall. The Charge squeaked in,
Mm-hmm.
having beat the Scepters earlier, and so that meant you had the Fleet, the Scepters, the Charge, the Victoire. So Montreal having the opportunity to go and choose their opponent. Who did they choose, Anna?
They chose the 2-time World Cup champions, the Minnesota Frost.
That makes sense to me. Totally makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's like,
Um,
okay, I actually thought, and I had the story kind of backwards because I thought that Minnesota had been chosen twice. Um, but no, they finished fourth last year, and Ottawa were chosen as Toronto's opponents or Boston's opponents, maybe. But yeah, either way, like Minnesota beat the second place finishers last year, and they were chosen first time round, and they beat. Yeah, I think Toronto chose them first time round, and they beat them. Like, even I know, like they are not the strongest team this year, but people have said that before. You just don't want to look that stupid on social media, in my opinion.
so the oddity of that choice, beyond what you've just described, is Minnesota did not finish fourth in the standings.
No.
Minnesota finished third.
Hmm.
And it's quite peculiar that the Victoire chose them over Ottawa
Yeah.
based
Is that a
on the.
momentum thing? Like, is
That's the
that
only
what
thing I
they're
could think of.
counting on? Like, Ottawa, obviously, they won on Saturday to take that final playoff position over Toronto. Huge game. Maybe that's the thinking behind it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the challenge is that, you know, you think of what teams were playing for their sort of quote unquote lives through to the end of the season. Montreal, Boston, Ottawa, Toronto. Um, the Frost were sort of where they were. The Frost weren't going to move up. The Frost weren't going to move down. So the
Hmm.
only thing I could imagine is that Montreal sort of pegs the Frost as a team that might have, put the edge in the back seat and will need an opportunity to warm up to find it.
Yeah. Putting the
I
edge
don't
in the
know.
back seat. The metaphors have been thoroughly mixed already by both of
Oh
us.
gosh, yeah. I mean,
That's our
if I could
specialty, I
take it a
feel
step further,
like.
it's totally like WWE wrestling. They got Christian in the front, Edge, he's in the back. My wrestling
Or
fans will get
or
me.
you two are in the
Ooh,
yeah, and the edge
yeah.
is in the back.
They're in the boot.
Good.
Hmm. Yeah. Anyhow, um, Goldeneyes, they're done. They've got the first overall pick. We'll obviously get back and talk a little bit about that. There's also some questions as to what will happen within the PW over the collars. The offseason news broke today that it sounds like the league has decided on there to be 4 expansion teams, likely spread over the course of 2 seasons, 2 going into next season, 2 the season after that, which means expansion drafts galore.
Yeah.
Fun times if you're trying to establish rosters as a new team like the Vancouver Goldeneyes or the Seattle Torrent might be trying.
Yeah.
Yes, all teams are impacted, but
And
the
yeah, we
Goldeneyes and the Torrent are
we
a
don't
mixed
know the
bag who are going
rules.
to be even mixier.
Yeah, we don't know the rules yet. When I ran into a friend of the show, Lachlan, at the game, he said there's some ideas that like could Seattle and Vancouver be exempt or have different rules to the other
Mm,
teams. I don't know, but like I don't know if a single ownership league is looking to do its young teams any favors. It's a shame, but like that was why the goal plan was so important because only finishing first would guarantee first overall pick. You don't know what you'll get if you're finishing second in the plan.
yeah. And one other sort of quirk: the Vancouver Goldeneyes finished 6th overall.
Yeah,
They actually leapfrogged the New York Sirens. Torrent finished at the bottom, but Gold Plan gives them that first overall pick. Only a point behind the Scepters,
I know.
which is
In the end,
crazy.
it
Like,
was very weird given that their season came down to the last day. But
mhm.
um, yeah, that was a strange one. I think obviously Toronto was so much on the back foot with that qualification. They would only just a technicality, like um, as long as Ottawa didn't lose in regulation,
Yeah,
they were good.
Ottawa had like 1 point
Yeah,
ahead of the Scepters, and so functionally, the only way Toronto wins is in regulation. So, um,
yeah, but yeah, that's it. That's
yeah,
with an 8-team league. That's the kind of weird stuff that happens.
it is. Speaking of weird stuff, the Vancouver Canucks have kicked off their GM search by ensuring that everyone in the organization who has a say gets to create a list. And it's like they're, I think, going to play a game of like Go Fish by
Yeah.
announcing names. Like, Jim Rutherford will ask Francesco, do you have a Ryan Johnson? Francesco will say, no, go fish. I mean, it's so surreal that you have, was it Jim Rutherford, Francesco Aquilini, and then there's a third list. Who has the third list?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. There's rumors
Yeah.
as to. That's the dumb thing. Like, I know this is a town, like a hockey town, where even when the team are in last place and out of the playoffs and actual exciting hockey is happening, we're talking about this. But it's just like they can't keep us out of the news for one day where it's not like them embarrassing themselves somehow. And then we have like a possibly outgoing president or taking a backseat president still very heavily involved in picking the GM and using up his Rolodex of old hockey men contacts.
And so what Anna's referring to there is word has come out that there is a good chance Jim Rutherford will be here for the draft and then ride off into the sunset that is NHL old guys, which doesn't actually mean there is a sunset, but they're out there. It is kind of surreal. Now, as far as who has been, brought up in conversation, if you can name a GM candidate or past GM in the league, their name has somehow been tied to the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
And what's really scary about this is it's not like, oh, that's a stretch. Almost any name seems to be, they're on one of the three lists that exist.
Yeah.
You got like,
I mean,
trying to think, was it Bergevin's name came up recently?
Yes, that's true. That was brought up pretty early on. It's just like, if you have, I'm not saying I use this word broadly, but like disgraced, like been sacked in disgrace, like, and I don't mean that in the hockey culture sense, but like, yeah. Let's like leave your team under a cloud of like problems? Then you're probably on the list. Like,
I was gonna say, because when you say disgrace, like there's a couple different guys. Like Kevin Adams, he kind of left in disgrace. But in fairness to Kevin Adams, the team that is currently in Buffalo was of his construction. The guy just he
I'm not saying.
You keep him in the room, put the hide-a-bed in there for him or whatever that they have still in the storage from the Torts era. Let him cook in his kitchen, and then you find someone else who can talk to people. Because that was not Kevin Adams.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, clearly, it's not like this is a whole new team in Buffalo, but they are playing completely differently. So you have to think that something was sour in the soup there. I don't think that's a real metaphor. I just made that up. But he would
we do here.
Certainly have to have
like edges in the back seat.
Yeah, he would certainly have to have a very good answer of what went wrong and how are Buffalo so good now that you've left.
Yeah, the names were being bandied about, and so I was in Wyatt's Discord server again. Why I am, who knows? He knows what he did. And someone had commented like all these things. Oh my God, Vancouver's going to make the worst of those picks. And I'm like, by God, that's Dale Talon's music. Because Dale hadn't had his name brought up yet, but he is a special advisor to the Vancouver Canucks. So,
that sounds cheap. Scary. He's already on the payroll.
God. Okay. Aside from Ryan Johnson, who I think you and I both sort of thought was heir apparent, and I still kind of think he is-ish.
Yes, I think that is
which name tickles your fancy the most, aside from Ryan Johnson?
What I don't want is an old hockey guy that is just one of Rutherford's friends from back in the day who's already got it wrong. I don't want a Kevin Adams or a Fitzy, good old Fitzy from New Jersey. Like, that's not the kind of guy I want. I would love to see, like them make a forward-thinking pick, whether that is like Ryan Bonus or Sam Ventura, who's like very like data
Cam
and analytics.
Lawrence's name has shown up. I mean, that to me
That's
is
true
like
too.
well out of left field. But
Computer
like for
boys,
me,
let's
yeah,
go.
like if you are truly a rebuilding team, you could probably do well with a computer boy or girl.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like obviously like it takes a village and we have some really smart people already in Vancouver. Like that's the thing, Sam Ventura, like I could see him doing well as in a team, but he's not gonna come in like he's a rising star, like why would he
Mhm.
like come
Well,
into
no,
a
but
failing team? Like
I
unless
think
he's given the keys, you know?
that, and I mean, again, the family isn't really keen to give you the keys. They don't even give you the code to get in the door. But if, dare I say it, they're like, you know what? We need you to turn us around. How can you do that? What would you do? And they were to go with the approach of we're going fully into an analytical mindset. We identify the best player for the, instead of best player available, best player by position, best player by situation. I could see that actually helping turn the team a little bit quicker while still making it a better sort of overstocked prospect with real ceiling um, availability. I could see a Ventura buying into that. But do I have faith that this, ownership group would be down for that? I don't know. Like, Mike Gillis, when he came in, that was sort of what he did. He shook things up. The
Yeah.
old guard in the NHL, did everything in their power to try to suggest that it was problematic in every which way to Sunday. And, I know there's fans out there that still look back at the Gillis era and say it was an abject failure, or will even point out that it wasn't even his team. It was the leftovers of Burke and Nonis, which, in fairness, there was a Burke and Nonis setup. But I think what happens under Gillis. And if you sort of look at what someone like Shane Doan, who is a prospective, GM candidate, has said about that era of the Vancouver Canucks and how he was like close to finding his way to Vancouver during that time. You look at what Kevin Bieksa talks about. Yannick Hansen, like all of these former players of that era, the ones who you would argue are like, yeah, that's the type of player I want in a Canucks jersey. They speak so highly of Mike Gillis. So I think that the organization would do well by having someone of that same mindset, to use the cliche, think outside of the box.
Right.
Let's be honest. The box has done horribly in Vancouver. Like there is a laundry list of retreads that have not done squat.
Yeah. And I would say there's like a lot of badly run teams in the league. Like hockey culture is thinking in the box. Like there's a lot of old hockey boys that still have front office and coaching jobs that you're just like, how? So yeah, I'd like to see someone different, but yeah, that is like, Shane Doan is a name, just as you said, but like, I mean, what experience does he have? Like that does make me somewhat nervous, but the thing brought up with Shane Doan is that he doesn't want to necessarily be GM.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you have to consider the Vancouver Canucks are not in a position to attract the best and the brightest just because there's an opening. They need to have some form of sale occurring to the role, like a Sam Ventura. I'm like, okay, here's everything that they're going to do to sort of like convince this guy this is why you come here, even though he'll get, if he's not already getting other phone calls, he's going to get phone calls. Yeah. Another sort of off the board suggestion from my part. It's not going to happen, but the Vancouver Canucks have two very accomplished women in Emilia Castonguay and Cami Granato. I'm not suggesting that either one of them gets the bump up, but I would love for one or both of them to be kept and help whomever is that GM, like revolutionize hockey.
Right. But I think I get what you're saying. Like if Canucks were the first people to put a woman as GM, like that's the coolest. historical marker, but like I don't think either of them would be interested. Cammy Granado runs a scouting department, and like she seemed like she gets to like full say in that, but also I don't think either her or like Ray Ferraro want change their life. They kind of are very happy with their life, which is
and I'm not like but like you look at what Granado's doing, you look at what Castanguet's like. The reports on Castanguet is that she is a shrewd business person. Like you have some very strong women who are doing really good work within the organization. So, and again, I don't think either one of them gets promoted. I'm not necessarily suggesting that's right or wrong, but I would love for the incoming general manager to embrace those two.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as resources. And help, I think, they need to have a big say. Yeah. I agree.
And like, I do worry that if the Canucks go and bring in a retread, which, let's be honest, if it's not Ryan Johnson, retread would be one of the reasons as to why, because they got a proven track record of turning things around.
Mm-hmm.
The retreads are going to go and shake the organization up, and I think that sets the team back. I don't see it as a positive bringing in a Fitzy I'm not as against a Kevin Adams per se, but again, I'm wanting something new, something fresh.
Yeah, I agree, but like you say, like it's still flashing warning signs of how involved
well, let's be honest, the family's always going to be involved.
And kind of Rutherford's kind of role, how is that going to work? And like, is he...
Yeah. I honestly don't see Rutherford keep sticking around.
No, neither. But it's also kind of like, are you the biggest voice deciding whether I get this job and then saying, see ya? Like...
I am of the opinion that at the end of the day, Jim Rutherford is simply being utilized as a mechanism to save money on an actual
like scouting firm
to do the search. And it was to save money while instead of having to let him and Alvin go.
Yeah, I mean, talk about shirking responsibility when they're like basically said we haven't fired Foot yet because that's the new GM's job.
Oh, well, I mean, the thing about so rewind the clock when Gillis was brought in, everyone under the sun figured that he was going to bring in his own coach. Like Alain Vigneault had resigned himself to the fact that he was going to be out of a job. Alain sits down with Mike. They have a conversation. Alain has apparently in this conversation just sort of, believes it's just a matter of, saving face and he'll, need to find a new gig. But what came out of it was Gillis actually approached it with a truly open mind, liked what Alain was saying, loved that Alain bought into what Mike wanted to do within the Canucks organization, and it really worked out well. But there is a saying, GMs only have so many triggers that they can pull, and if you're given an incumbent coach, that's considered the one freebie.
Right.
So I guarantee the Canucks, the freebie was you were hired, and the freebie was that you got to make the decision, but then it's gone. You get no further ones down the road, especially with the ownership as they are. Anyhow, Who knows? Maybe we'll talk in a couple of weeks' time, and they'll have hired, I don't know, Cam Lawrence, who is like, not that we promote sports betting here, but the prop bet is like 48-1 or 4,800 to 1. Something's crazy for Cam Lawrence, but he's on the board.
It's free money.
You and I are going to take a break. You're listening to the C4 Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Chris, Craig, and Anna.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy. Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He's going to get a lot of power play time, and yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
Like how I'm maintaining a shtick, I had you at the end again.
Yeah.
I'm nothing if not consistent.
It's so fun for me.
Yeah. Hey, in complete transparency, almost all of our social media content promotes Anna first, Chris second. Craig never even gets a shout out.
Well, I appreciate that then.
Yeah, and I want to let everyone know that's not Anna publishing on social media. That's Chris, because Chris truly values his co-host, Anna. Just like he values the AI producer in the background that's recording the show.
Yeah,
Craig.
We still appreciate that. Appreciate his.
But here in Half Full, Half Empty, we thought we'd talk about what's been going on in the PW over the course of the season. All those crazy rules and situations that are unlike what we've come to expect in the standard National Hockey League way of doing things. Like wild in the NHL is that somehow teams can get 3 points out of some games and 2 out of others, and there are no ties.
There's no ties in hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's what the movie said. There's no crying in hockey either. I think that was the same movie.
Yeah.
So you had brought up that it would be kind of cool if we were to go through all of the different sort of PWHL rules and whatnot, and whether we, love it or hate it, or as you more appropriately called it, stick with it or bin it.
Yeah. As in get in the bin.
Yeah. And, for those not from the old country, she's talking about the trash can,
Yeah, it's just not as fun to say.
No. Well, it used to be I had to explain these things to Matt. Like Matt did not speak.
Or have any curiosity to figure it out. So.
No. So I had to explain it to him, like everything, like even the fact that you heard me explain it to him on an episode was weird because I'd already explained it to him.
Yeah, tip of the iceberg.
Anyhow, where shall we start?
I feel like point system is a good place to start. Yeah, in case you have gone through the PWHL season not knowing this, 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for an overtime or shootout win, 1 point for an overtime or shootout loss.
And
I
0
love
for an
this.
outright loss.
Yeah, 0 for outright. It makes so much more sense. It incentivizes winning in regulation. It gets you further away from the dreaded shootout, even though I continue to love shootouts. As long as they are rare. But, you get even less of them, surely. People want to win in regulation. And it, when you're looking at the table, that's what should be apparent is, not all these loser points propping up teams. But, yeah, the regulation winners are floating to the top.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. I like math and the fact that magical points aren't showing up. Someone was trying to explain to me that the NHL system is superior because a win is a win. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you're telling me that a team that barely holds on and gets a win in a shootout is just as good as that team who did everything they could to get the win in regulation? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Because I do think, because I do like shootouts, I think those wins are exciting sometimes. A shootout win or an overtime win, and it's not like I'd want to get away from any of those, but it incentivizes, and we see more regulation wins.
It draws upon, to me, a correlation to how FIFA tried the golden goal concept for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And what that functionally did, for those that don't know soccer, is that if you got into added time, so add an extra mini game, to
for a tournament,
result, like tournament play,
game.
things that so and so. So think of overtime in hockey, overtime in soccer. So it's like a new sort of period. Soccer will always have 2 halves. traditionally the way it would work is you had a mini game, 2 equal halves, as many goals could be scored, and if it's still tied, it would go to a shootout, a penalty shootout, or what would be called kicks. Now, golden goal meant that the first goal scored in that mini game won it for that team. And you
Just
started
like
to see weaker sides like park the bus. We're talking New Jersey Devils style late 80s, early 90s hockey, anything that they could do to slow the game down and make it just a horrible thing to watch. Like, I call it the beautiful game. I truly think it is. The fact that we were seeing weaker sides do everything they can to take the beauty out of it in the faint hope that they could get it to golden goal time and score to win, made it like it took away from that.
Yes.
I would prefer to see teams going at it in regulation. And to me, I think the PW got that right. I love it. I wish the NHL give me 3 points for regulation win. I know it adds complexity, but let's be honest, it represents what I think everyone would agree is great. Their team wins without having to go to OT. The number of people who go and complain about OT being 3-on-3 is nuts. They should be loving 3 points for a regulation win.
It's true. I think people fear change. Like we saw with the 3-on-3, where people now kind of love it. So, or at least the majority, I would say, still. And I hate math, so but I think it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Gold Plan. So the PWHL we've talked about the last couple of episodes is the Gold Plan. Again, quick crash course if you somehow missed that part. The way it works is once you're eliminated from the postseason, the first overall pick is awarded to the team who scores the most points over the course of the remaining games from being eliminated under the 3-2-1 structure. Now, in an 8-team league, I've already shared that I'm not entirely keen on it. I think it would look and function better in a league with a greater number of teams. But I'm still not sold on it. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not really a fan of the lottery draft, what the NHL does. Maybe the gold plan is the way. But like you look at a team like the Vancouver Canucks, they're eliminated and they sucked. Like, let's call a spade. They weren't winning no gold plan the way they were playing. Though I guess they'd make it interesting down the stretch when in April they started getting points.
So I'm largely of the same opinion. I don't think in its current state with the current league, it is a good system. Yes, it made the last 2 games very exciting, but it takes so long to be eliminated from an 8-team league where half of you is making the playoffs. That it really only applies to the last week of the season, if that. We had the strange scenario of New York basically being eliminated before they could register any points for the gold plan. I don't think it's a good system, but I do like that they've tried to solve the system.
Yep. No, and I want to give full credit for that.
Yeah. Because I don't think the NHL system works either, and we do see terrible games. And the fact that because Adam Foote is coaching for his job, we're not seeing necessarily the results don't matter games, so let's throw young guys in. So you're kind of getting the worst of both worlds with the NHL, I think, because you don't even get fun young players getting a shot. But so I don't know the best way forward either. I think there is some merit to incentivizing wins at the end of the season, but I don't know how to do that.
And I don't know. I was sort of shooting the proverbial with a friend about gold plan. They'd asked me about it, and I'd sort of explain, and they didn't like it, and I'm like, well, do you like the lottery system? No. I'm like, we're spitballing, and I'm like, maybe they combine the two. Maybe your lottery odds increase based on your performance, under this gold plan, not in its sort of current context. But again, I'm not saying that that's the solution either, but it's worthwhile to, I think, experiment. And I want to applaud the PW for trying to try to figure out sort of the anti-take. What other rules or whatnot did we want to touch on?
I think the two surrounding penalties would be interesting to get into, which is the jailbreak goal, whereupon you can be released from your minor penalty if your team scores shorthanded. And the other one being, I have literally written this name down so many times, and I still
no escape rule.
No escape rule. Thank you. It's not that catchy. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. It seems like what the NHL has, where it's like you don't get released for a shorthanded goal. But no, the no escape rule is kind of like ice, and you don't get to change player personnel until there is a face-off after a penalty's been given.
So I don't actually have an issue with either one of them. I like the jailbreak goal. Like, again, I can appreciate that someone would point out, like, well, Chris, the transgression, they need to be punished and they're almost rewarded for doing it if their team's good at scoring shorthanded goals. And I'd suggest, what's wrong with offense?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if you're like, that's the point of the rule, is that it rewards offense. And I think, I've said this before, but God forbid sports be fun for fans. Like, I think that's what the PWHL are trying to do. Do I think it's a little crazy? Yes, but I don't mind it.
No, and to me, the no escape is sort of each team is provided sort of an incentive and a disincentive to special teams play. You get punished for a penalty. Not only are you going to the box for 2, your team is now left with whoever's still on the ice. Like, let's say you're the center who takes all the face-offs and your wingers on the ice aren't up to snuff in the circle. Well, guess what? You've put your team at a significant disadvantage. That's again a strong disincentive to take a penalty. But that said, should your team be able to, weather that storm and be an offensive-minded group, you can be rewarded with that sort of mindset. Now, like a shorthanded goal, everyone loves them. No one complains about shorties. So to me, I like that concept. A little off the rails. You had said how, like, why is it that the leagues try to, stifle the fun out of the game? Not that the PWHL is doing it. Have you heard of banana ball?
That's the like baseball, but crazy.
Yeah, it's I mean, crazy. So for those listeners who don't know what banana ball is, the long and short of it is a minor league franchise owner tried to inject sort of a fun experience into the game. The team was suffering at the gate, and he and his wife, who were partners in ownership, had come to realize fans weren't having fun. So what can we do to increase the enjoyment of just showing up at the ballpark? And they started doing some what would be considered counter baseball culture things. The traditionalists hated it with a passion. And so what did they do? They created essentially their own traveling baseball team and now their own traveling league. Banana ball is, from what I've seen, a ton of fun. And like they have all of these sort of differences to the traditional game of baseball. But what it really comes down to is, at the end of the day, you want to go to the ballpark for the experience, the event, and hey, there's some baseball happening. That's fun to watch because you never know what might happen. It's much less than like the Harlem Globetrotters, running up the score against the Nationals. It's not scripted like, WWE or many of them would be like, but it's an experience by a league that's just saying, hey, we can do things different. People love us. And I would love for some of the, traditionalists to understand that we as a society change. And that's no different than like the NHL and hockey and the PWHL. I would love for there to be an appreciation. And at the end of the day, what is it that we want to see? See a good game and we want to enjoy ourselves while we're there.
Yeah, and I will say that I bet those people complaining about Banana Ball weren't going to see their local minor league team who are playing, regular baseball either. So people love to complain about change. Yeah, like just in particular with the no escape rule, I think it's a good idea. I'm not saying get rid of it, but in practice it just doesn't always work. I don't believe it was the Montreal game. I believe it was maybe the week before. But yeah, one of the Vancouver games where they opposition incurred a penalty and there's no escape rule, I think was voided 3 times because there was media timeouts. So it's like you get a break anyway. So it's not like
the solution to that's just like icing. There's no TV timeout on icing. It happens the next stoppage. I think in a practical application you'd have to do that with the
no escape rule.
Subsequent
obviously
face-off.
you're still got the same players out there, but yeah, they definitely got a bit of a rest.
You're given the opportunity to get the rest. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, what are your thoughts on what the PWHL has been doing this past season and season prior? Would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us on social and the C4 Discord. Heck, if you happen to track down Anna and I on the street, let us know.
Which does happen.
That just happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to you. Yeah.
It happens in PWHL games, so.
Yeah. But we have reached the end of an episode. As I talked about at the top of the show, we're going to be going to our off-season schedule, so we won't be back next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. And we'll be going every couple of weeks through to June-ish. And then there will be an episode in July and an episode in August, and we'll be back in September. And again, if something, earth-moving occurs within the context of the Goldeneyes or the Canucks, we'll probably get together and record an emergency podcast. I can't remember the last time, if at all, that I've ever recorded an emergency Canucks podcast.
It's certainly been a while. I think we might have done one back in the day, but it was definitely pre-pandemic times.
Oh gosh, yeah. But yeah, it would have been if it happened at all. Like I just honestly don't remember. But Anna, as we've reached this point of the show, got any words of wisdom to share with our listeners this week?
Just like when you wear party hats, your night is immediately more fun. Obviously yesterday was my birthday event, so my friend brought party hats for us all to wear, which just everyone's just like super nice to you. But I have actually been on a night out where it was no one's birthday, we just wore party hats, and it was just more fun for everyone. So
so what you're telling me is I should just be wearing a party hat 24/7.
Yeah.
Can you overwear a party hat?
I think you can. I think if you were maybe by yourself, going out for a meal, maybe don't. But yeah, or grocery shopping.
I'll be honest. If I was, I was at the hospital getting my ACL work done, and the surgeon walked in with a party hat, I might have questions. But
at least he's having fun.
Yeah, true. Because all I know
doing what he loves.
Yeah, as long as I sleep through it and don't know what even happened, because it was fun for me too. Word of advice from me, this comes from my daughter. If you happen to go to a play place that has clothes that you can dress up in, it's important not to wear a dress or a skirt, because that makes it a lot harder to put the dress up clothes on. I was never aware of this because I don't believe I wore either of those items, nor did I have access to a play place as a kid. I was commenting actually on social media how my daughter for her birthday got to go to this crazy play place. It's like all things and everything. It was awesome. And a highlight of my birthday at her age was going to the McDonald's play place, where I got to ride a merry-go-round that featured like the Hamburglar,
that does sound like the stuff of nightmares. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it was like, the fact that it was like a merry-go-round with music, that was
yeah. It's more just that they're kind of nightmarish creatures.
Yeah. Anyhow, things have changed. What can I say? If you've also reached this point of the show and you want to support us as we go into the off season, where Anna and I will at some point get pints together, we will take pictures, we will share them, we will show them to you. It will happen, I guarantee you. I've been trying to get her out, but she continues to tell me she has plans that are more important than me. I don't know what to say. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. Buy me a coffee, otherwise known as.
Buy me a pint.
And you can throw a few bucks our way. The one-off donations go directly into the pint fund, and then I will eventually get together and buy some pints with that money. If you happen to support us on a recurring basis, either monthly or annually, that money goes into the fund that helps pay the bills. The bills aren't as plentiful as they once were, but they are still plentiful, and then I cover those completely out of our pocket and supplement that with the money that you provide us on the recurring basis. Just that predictable amount makes it a lot easier for us to plan. That's really what it comes down to. If you'd like to find us on social media, the podcast is at the C4 Podcast on X, the Real C4 Podcast on Threads, and C4podcast.com on Blue Sky. Anna is A4603 pretty much everywhere. I'm Lightforce pretty much everywhere. And our entire back catalog and find out more about us and all the guests we've had is at c4podcast.com. Lastly, with the off season, we are really going to try to get other voices on here. Why? Well, one, we've learned that you like other voices. Two, Anna and I like other voices. And as long as it's not Wyatt, because he knows what he did.
Word.
Pretty much anyone's fair game.
I've now begun to accost our guests in person and ask them to return. Shout out Maya and Lachlan. So, yeah, we are hoping to have them both back on and maybe some other cool voices as we go.
And on that note, if there's a cool voice that you'd like us to get in touch with, let us know. Better yet, if you already are in touch with said voice or have a connection, connect us. We're always good for making those connections and making the magic happen. One thing I will ask, just because someone had mentioned it to me, it's like, oh, cool, you should reach out to people. You guys are so professional. Anna and I are not professionals. We may have stayed in a Holiday Inn Express once or twice, but that's the closest we've ever come to any form of professionalism. So yeah, I want to make that very clear. Anyhow, just saying. So on behalf of Anna, myself, Chris, and that robot in the background, Craig, we out.